Mark. This is Confessions of a Seeker. And so this is a sort of deviation from our normal format for Seeking Nothing, in that we're actually going to be looking at seeking for the next half an hour.
I'm incredibly impressed with the notation. It's just amazing.
Well, I don't know where the discussion's going to go.
Neither do I, believe me.
I've got
no
options.
idea. Yeah, let's see. This is an experiment.
You've told me for the past afternoon I don't have options. But,
of course. Yet, nevertheless, that feeling happens.
Which brings me to my first point, which is that there is a wonderful sense of irony that you, of all people, are writing a book about seeking. After this shift has fallen away, so we were chatting a bunch, and I reckon this is probably the first book about seeking that's actually written by a non-seeker ever.
I don't know. It's crazy. I know.
And you have clocked up quite a lot of seeking.
I have been a busy little monkey. This is true.
Actually, somewhere here I should have
You didn't count up, did you?
No, you've done it for me.
Oh, no.
Because I'm just this just gives a taster. You say I've had 2 long homeopathic treatments.
Oh, don't read that. I mean, there's a recommendation that even the person that's bought that book does not read those 2 paragraphs.
I'm just saying, there is a lot of seeking going on. All right. I mean, and this book really travels through kind of the whole guru thing, different group therapy kinds of things, flirting with Buddhism, which didn't really go too well.
No, alas, it didn't.
And people accusing you of
abject failure,
Buddhist, which also didn't go down very well.
No.
Baptists
rather than baptism. Yeah.
Because you come from a Jewish sort of cultural.
Not really. No, only by blood. No.
So there was no. Okay. So a lot of kind of weird and wonderful kinds of things that we shall kind of dip into a little bit here. And I want to ask you, what were you kind of looking for at the time when you did all these things?
Relief from suffering. Yeah, relief from suffering. I think, like a lot of people, I sort of started in on this journey. I had no idea how many different rides I would go on in the spiritual playground or fairground, but I started on it, as a lot of people do, at a particularly low time in my life. Yeah, so looking for relief from suffering.
Right. And what you've done is sort of give a collection of kind of anecdotes, and I think there's sort of lighter side of it.
I hope so.
And I wonder if you could put some kind of sort of timeline on it, or give some kind of, put it into some kind of order.
No, probably not. It was a very long timeline. I think I had a major acid trip when I was, sometime in my 20s, and that's what kicked it off. And then it went on for decades.
This is when you were in a band?
Yeah, poetry band. Poetry band, yeah. Yeah, and that major acid trip, again, that's for a lot of people, it kind of kicked off these spiritual seeking, and then that just went on and on and on for several decades. Yeah.
And so with the kind of, there was a phase where you're sort of going from one guru to another guru.
Only heavily and deeply invested in deep love with one guru, and then when that all collapsed into a kind of panoply of scandal, we turned the steamer off before it boiled one of us, then
Is this Guru Raj?
yes. Yeah.
So that was your main love affair with you?
Yes, my main Guru love affair was Guru Raj, and then after that...
Hold on, before that you were in the TM thing. So how long were you doing the TM thing for?
Not terrible, 2 or 3 years maybe.
Right. And Guru Raj?
Guru Raj burst onto the scene, yes,
right.
and he stole a lot of TM teachers.
Right.
And a lot of TM participants like myself.
Right.
And so he kind of went from unknown to having really quite a large organisation very quickly, because he happened to recruit 2 of Maharishi's head honchos in the West. And so once they joined him, a lot of other TM teachers joined, and this happened at a critical time when, this is my understanding of it anyway, where Maharishi had always warned against doing siddhis. He said siddhis are irrelevant to spiritual progress, and then suddenly he set up some very expensive siddhi courses, and a lot of us became quite disillusioned. And then Guru Raj came along at exactly that moment to mop us up, as it were.
I think you've got a metaphor here. This is Maharishi's warning had been that although such powers might develop naturally as we meditate, we should not deliberately seek them out because they would interrupt our path to enlightenment.
Exactly, yeah.
He said enlightenment is like a diamond mine. On the way to it, we would inevitably come across the occasional diamond lying by the side of the road. But if we sat down and became entranced by these solitary diamonds, we would never reach the mine itself.
Yes. And that's
well, my challenge to that is surely the point of going to diamond mines to get diamond.
Well, you have to address that. You have to address that challenge to Maharishi. Unfortunately, you have to address it now to him through a psychic of some kind, because he's no longer on the physical plane. I'm not going to defend that metaphor. I'm just going to say that at the time, as a much younger man, this kind of metaphor appealed to the deeply serious spiritual seeker. And remember that at that time you've got people like Sai Baba producing Rolex watches and vibhuti magically from his sleeves and so forth, and we all scorned this kind of cheap trickery, so we thought we were very serious spiritual seekers. So we quite liked this idea that we shouldn't be developing powers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
but you address your complaint directly to Maharishi.
But back to Guru Raj.
Yeah.
So from what it looked like from what I saw, there was about 3 or 4 gurus, but it was mainly one guru that you kind of focused on.
Yeah.
And something happened that kind of ended that.
Yes. Actually, lots of things happened, which we didn't know about.
Lots of things happened, but that was in the form of a meeting where all those revelations.
There was an exposure, and the reason for that exposure is so delightful. I'm reluctant to put it onto video in case this goes public, because I want people to buy the book to read it. But I will. Basically, what had been happening was he'd been seducing women who were high up in his organisation by telling them that he was the reincarnate Jesus and they were the reincarnate Mary Magdalene, and that having been lovers 2,000 years ago, it was time to rekindle a love affair. Now, it was that amazing, a wonderful story. Unfortunately, he overplayed his hand, because this worked so well with the first woman. He tried it on at least 2 more. So the organisation now had 3 secret Mary Magdalenes in it, and of course, inevitably, somebody talked or blabbed or whatever, boasted or complained, I don't know what. And these 3 Mary Magdalenes each of them discovered they were not unique. And outrage followed, and then at that point, all sorts of other terrible sins that everybody, all the hierarchy in the organisation knew about anyway, they made them public. It's like most of these spiritual organisations, there's stuff going on at the top, but I believe that very, very tiny coterie around the guru know about them. And then if the guru upsets that coterie, that's it, he's done for. So that's what happened.
And that does sort of come back as a theme in terms of monks and nuns, you were saying that and other gurus and the shenanigans that they were getting up to.
I know, there's a lot of shenanigans in that book, yeah.
And I think you said something like, if there isn't, then the gurus aren't really that interesting.
Oh, I don't remember saying that, but...
Okay, fair enough. So, and what was the time of your life? Where were you at? How old were you? What were you doing?
30, late 20s, and then through my 30s and so forth. That was when it was really intense. Yeah.
And what kind of work were you doing?
I was a college lecturer, which gave me long holidays in which to pursue these passions. Originally in English, and then later on in other things. I moved over more into sort of therapy and training adults, teacher training, that sort of thing.
Right.
But it gave me both money and leisure with which to pursue this passion.
Because you got quite disillusioned with the whole guru kind of thing. But you, it seemed like you were still kind of doing lots of things.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you want to carry on in terms of the timeline where you kind of went on to from after Guru Raj?
It's too complicated, but I mean, basically, having said it started off with suffering, it kind of went on with suffering, and I think that's often the story. So the Guru thing kind of exploded in this great mess of scandal. But as the personal suffering continued, so the desire to end that in some way or other also continued. So there's a kind of natural progression, actually. The leaders of the Guru cult, not the Guru himself, the leaders of the Guru cult, then set up one of these wonderful organisations, a bit like these very hard, punchy personal development organisations that was, very highly confrontative. Borrowed a lot from the encounter movement in America, but what we had, I'll say we, which S didn't have, was we also had the meditation and the spiritual side carried on from the Guru cult. So that was kind of the next thing.
There was a lot of kind of superstitious, I'll put it under the category of superstition, kind of thing that you were sort of delving into. Tarot and...
Tarot?
No?
Don't think so, no.
There was
almost everything else, but not tarot.
Afterlife.
Yeah.
Kind of delving.
Past life regression. All of that.
So, and then later on in the book, you talk about religion and superstition.
Yep.
And you kind of knock superstition. You're not religion for being superstitious.
I'm afraid so, yes, this is true.
So, what do you think of your own kind of journey and the various things?
Fairground ride.
Right.
Yeah. It was very interesting and exciting and sometimes enjoyable and sometimes very painful. So I think like most people's kind of spiritual journey, if we can use that phrase.
So there's a kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. Me and many other people, Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's happened since that book's been published, I've had quite a lot of people contact me, and so I did this as well, I did that, and, it just feels like my story as well. So,
okay, well...
There were a lot of us, it was,
I'm wondering if we should have an excerpt or something.
Yeah, do you bear that? Yeah.
Do you have a bit that you want to?
Probably. Yeah. Well, do you have a bit? I don't know. I've got something. I'll tell you what. Can I read the very last part of it? Because you've mentioned religion.
Yeah.
And I do go for religion a bit, maybe a bit too strongly. I don't know. Maybe not strongly enough. Could I just read this very last bit? It's very short. It's from the last chapter, which is really, it's called Some Blasts Against Religion. It's just a collection of very short pieces, the first of which, I'm afraid, is not terribly complimentary about the Pope. But that's not the bit I'm going to read. This is called Trendy Vicar. Okay? It's just, one of the things, I don't know whether I've succeeded, but one of the things I've tried to do with but we kind of take really what might seem like quite trivial anecdotes, but sort of look for the deeper meaning in the anecdote. So that's a bit like this. So I'm sitting in a cafe with two friends after a Tai Chi class. It is a very good cafe, so we come here regularly. As usual, it is full of young mothers with toddlers, lycra-clad cyclists, and a few businessmen working on their laptops or holding discreet meetings. Mashed avocado, sourdough bread, and healthy smoothies feature prominently on the menu. Today, sitting opposite us is a vicar. He is a trendy modern vicar. He has a shaved head and he is planning his church business with an associate on his iPad. He is the very same vicar who has banned our Tai Chi group from using his church hall. I do not want to engage him in conversation. I prefer to enjoy my latte. But as he gets up to leave, my friend Simon asks him, "Why won't you let us use your hall for our Tai Chi classes?" The vicar patiently explains. Many people, he says, believe that Tai Chi is simply an innocent form of exercise. But it's not. It's a Taoist practice. Taoism is a non-Christian religion which is trying to make converts in this country. As a Christian, I believe that if I let you use God's premises for your Tai Chi classes, he'll be angry with me. Then, when I die, I'll have to explain myself to him. To show that there are no hard feelings, he shakes hands with each of us as he leaves. At this point, I cannot help being drawn in. I grip his hand tightly so that he cannot easily withdraw it, look into his eyes and say, "You know, the problem you have is that you don't really know what kind of God you're going to meet when you die. God might turn out to be a Taoist. Then he might be angry with you because you didn't let our Tai Chi group use your church hall." He does not say anything to this. He looks momentarily confused. Then I let his hand go. I want to add, do you realise how psychotic you sound to ordinary people like us? I want to add it, but I do not.
Which
little taste.
Which brings up one of my reasons for asking about the timeline was because there's bits in the book where you refer to giving non-duality talks.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start giving non-duality talks after the falling away of yourself? So you weren't giving non-duality talks before then?
No.
So, but it does look like there are a lot of stories around that where you're still kind of doing some quite bizarre kinds of things and going along to different sort of meetings.
Does it? Right. Well, I mean, sometimes, for example, you know, there's sometimes to accompany a friend, to keep somebody company, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but no, not really. When seeking ended, it ended. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looked like. You were still sort of in a scene where there were certain things going on and you just happened to be there, but then there wasn't anyone there. So.
Yeah, it's a difficult timeline and for different reasons. I wouldn't make too much of it. It's because, you know, to follow a particular theme through a chapter, I have to sort of go through a completely different timeline to a different chapter, for example.
Yeah, I think you've chosen the most entertaining kind of route.
Yeah, hopefully,
through the. So I wonder if I could mention a couple of the chapters, and if you could sort of talk a little bit about them.
Well, let's see. Yeah.
One of them is just to give a kind of example, an idea, sort of flavour. One of them is I've chosen is Quantum Leap.
Okay. Yeah.
I just wondered if you could share a little bit about that.
Well, that was a very, very intensive 8-day personal development course, let's call it, including outward bound elements of this organisation which was set up by the two chief Western figures who headed up the Guru cult. So when the Guru cult collapsed, they set up this kind of S-style organisation, and this was their sort of pièce de résistance. This was their central course, 8 days of absolute torment, torture, and lack of sleep. I mean, basically, the fashion at the time, which I guess came out of Esalen, it was probably very simple. You know, you sort of noticed how effective sleep deprivation and other torture techniques are with prisoners of war, so why not use that for personal development? So, you know, minimal sleep, minimal food.
So you've got one, there's one, can I quote?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's one bit where you talk about sleep deprivation psychosis.
Yes.
Where you start hallucinating.
Yes.
And they've asked you to have suits hung up, which you later realise is for a last night, like a night or something.
Yeah.
And your suits are now, they've been replaced by a diver's.
Yeah, I wake up in the middle of the night and the people running the group have come along in the middle of the night and hung this diver's wetsuit up next to my bed instead of my nice smart clothes. So I think, oh gosh, something's up here. Yeah.
So you want to sound an alarm because you think there's something wrong?
Yeah, well I also, about 10 seconds after that, I realised that this is, I'm sleeping in a tent with about 10 other people. You get a reduced fee for sleeping in a tent.
You've also had no sleep.
We've also had no more than 2.5 to 3 hours sleep a night for several nights. And a few seconds after realising this about the diver's wetsuits, I then also realised that the same helpers had picked the entire tent up with all 8 or 10 of us inside us and had put us down somewhere miles away. This is obviously some orienteering. It's like you do right to look puzzled by this, but remember this is a psychotic episode, and they put us down miles away, and obviously this is some terrible orienteering test that we're going to be subjected to the next day. And I very nearly wake everybody else up in the tent, which they would have loved. Fortunately, I was just too tired and too lazy to do, so I went back to sleep. By the time I woke up, I realised that the helpers had come along and returned the tent to its original position and had taken away the diver's suit and put back my nice set of clothes. Yeah, it's just an example of you know, how far you can be driven into psychosis by these very, very extreme methods. These are, you know, they are torture methods. After all, there's sleep deprivation of food.
And the idea being
To break it, well, my interpretation would be the way I put it. Well, I'll tell you the way I put it at the time. What I would say, the way I put it at the time, I don't know if this metaphor makes sense, is that it's like our personalities. It's as if we're a jigsaw puzzle, right? And a mad gorilla has shaken the jigsaw puzzle out of the box and just smashed all the pieces together in any particular kind of order. And that's kind of like how most of us are in terms of our dysfunctional personalities. And the idea of a very intensive groups and courses and encounter groups and like that is to kind of break the jigsaw puzzle apart so it can be put back together in the way it should have been in the first place. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of the nearest I've ever been able to get to it.
From a non-dual perspective.
Oh, forget it. There's no point even going there.
I mean, the idea that it's, you know, whatever the picture is, that there should be something.
This is story stuff. This is a book full of stories. Yeah. I'd like to say, by the way, that still with this, you know, from that kind of psychotherapeutic perspective, still from this side, I've got a lot of respect for that group, that course, that organisation, and for approaches like that. I think, you know, as long as you're kind of strong enough not to completely break apart under it in a way that you can't be put back together again, it can be a very effective way of dealing with psychological and emotional suffering, opposite like that.
And it comes across as very enriching.
Yeah, I think so. It can.
And there is another point in the book where you talk about the shadow, working on the shadow side, where your kind of respect for that kind of work,
huge respect for that. Yeah,
comes out.
Yeah.
going to just, I love this bit. You've got, I won't read the whole thing, but there's a bit where you, in that kind of workshop thing, that intensive.
Can I just say, there's a lot of irony, and there's a lot of, in a way, there's a lot of mockery in that book, but there's also a lot of respect as well for certain things. Yeah.
There's one bit where you talk about being subjected to, you're all shown films on the projector of these different sex scenes of all this kind of stuff going on.
Yes.
And then in the next paragraph, you've got they're then at the end of the course, the same course that is doing all of that. They're introduced to 3 stylists who've been brought along for the day to give anyone who wishes it a makeover.
Yes. Yeah, you see, they felt they were dealing with the whole person, from the darkest, most hidden, most shadow side of us, all the way through to the social self and how you present to other people. Yeah, it's very rich experience.
And there's another sort of very kind of rich story that you tell in the book, which I wonder if you can touch on as well, about the goat. Your Smokey, the psychoanalytic goat, your chapter. Yeah. I think in terms of just sheer hilarity, it's just priceless.
I don't know what to say about that. I needed to give up smoking, and I was helped by a goat. A psychoanalytic goat. I suppose I ought to say this was in a kind of therapeutic context, and it wasn't a real actual goat. It was a goat which appeared mysteriously. I'm not going to say an imaginary goat. A goat which appeared mysteriously in my psyche, and it worked. I gave up smoking. Yeah.
Well, there's bits in here about your kind of personal kind of relationships and things.
I'm probably too many bits, yeah. I hope not in the sense that it's boring, although it might be. I just mean, I think I probably gave a bit too much away.
Yeah,
there you go.
I think you've definitely sold your story, and you've got, there's a lot to kind of,
I could be considered to have been a bit incautious in some things. There's been a very, very, very angry Buddhist on my case.
You mentioned that before.
I did. Yeah.
And that was because of your sharing your thoughts about those Buddhist groups.
One particular one, yeah. Somebody who should never have known that book was written. I still have no idea how they came to know about it. Unfortunately, did read something they shouldn't have read. But what can you do? It's a kind of hazard of writing real stuff.
And then, so that's pretty much it in terms of the kind of substance of the book and different flavours. There's a concept that you talk about I'd like to touch on as well, which is you've spoken about today about free will.
Right.
You've got a whole section of free will. And I'm going to ask you.
Oh, go on.
Since I've got the floor, I might as well ask you a question.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree with you.
Oh no!
About
this whole interview is about to collapse now into chaos, controversy,
this is
anger.
Really winding down towards the end, actually.
Good.
So it's just about determinism.
I'd like to point out we're already on that £500 extra fee you have to pay just before after 4:30.
So unfortunately, you won't get to hear Richard's But I was a bit surprised.
Hear Neil's argument, and you can come up with your own retort if you want.
I was a bit surprised because you spoke about the emptiness and how everything is, that there isn't any separation, there's no object, there's no past, there's no reality. And your key argument for there not being free will was a deterministic one, which only an objectified view of reality would uphold.
Well, it's not really. I mean, the argument is, and I would like to say it's not my argument. Of course, I'm just quoting much more learned people than me. But the argument is that everything is either deterministic or random, or a mixture of the two. There are no other possibilities, and that none of those three possibilities leaves any room for free will. That's the argument. If we're going to start taking, if we're going to start sort of relating this to non-duality, I shall simply burst into tears and declare that we've run out of time. You can try pushing it a bit further if you want to, but I don't think we'll get anywhere with that.
Which we have. This is...
Well, we've run out of time, but I haven't quite burst into tears.
No. I'm just getting accused there. So this is Confessions of a Seeker by Richard Sylvester, who we've had speaking today. It's been an absolute delight.
There are copies at the back of the room. Anybody wants to buy one?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have to do it?
Oh, if you want to risk the wrath of the heart.
Yeah,
Sure.
a few minutes. Is
that still going?
Yep.
Yeah, leave it on.
Do you have anything?
Well, when you mentioned you've got huge respect for certain psychotherapeutic approaches, there's something you would recommend out of the colourful experiments that you have?
It's very difficult. The group that I talked about in there that Neil referred to, they don't exist anymore. They haven't for a long time. In terms of, it's so personal. I mean, I felt I got a lot out of the Gestalt, for example. I would say, this is talking very much from a personal point of view in terms of the character, the personality, and the sort of issues that the character feels. I feel any kind of shadow work may be, highly beneficial for some people. I think if we don't kind of get to know our own shadow and become acquainted with it and become friends with it, then we remain a danger to ourselves and perhaps more importantly to other people, because the less we know our shadow, the more likely we are to project onto other people with all sorts of consequences. So anything involving shadow work. But it's such a rich and large field, and people are so different in terms of what they respond to. I think that anybody who wants to do that kind of exploration, you just have to go out there, dip their toes in and see what suits them.
In some quarters, in terms of the cause and effect, some quarters might advocate that all your years of spiritual practice may have created a fertile ground for ultimately the falling away of the self.
Of course people will say that.
But I think you've got a different opinion.
Yeah, referring back to the Buddhist, who I don't think it's unfair of me to say was incandescent with rage. That was very much one of his or her key points. How do you deny exactly what you just said? Yeah, so that's the natural, common sense, person-invested way to see it. This must have led to this, and that must have led to that. And all I can say is, of course that makes sense, but I'm sorry, that's not what's there.
I do feel it's a twisted fate though, that given how few people in the public zone rather have had that shift, it happened to someone that did that sheer amount of seeking. Given that your message, that's the fundamental point of the empty fullness is that nothing needs to happen and nothing is happening. I think it's ironic that there was that much seeking.
I've said before and I'll say again, it certainly looks suspicious. I'm sorry, I can't help that. I can't help that. I can't even explain it. I can't explain how from... Oh yes, of course. I can't explain it how, sitting here in this apparent moment, what to the mind is a perfectly reasonable, rational and logical contention. It just doesn't make any sense. I can't explain that, but that's how it is. And it is, that's kind of a state of almost calculated. It's not, I don't calculate it to, but it could seem almost calculated to enrage certain people. And it certainly has enraged at least one person, as I know. Yeah.
And we'll wrap it up there because we need to vacate the room. So thanks again.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil.
Cheers.
Thank you for inviting